There are two main differences between traditional brand marketing and growth marketing. The first is around what do you focus on as a marketer. So brand marketing traditionally is focused on top of the funnel, so awareness and acquisition. Growth marketing focuses on the entire funnel. So your job as a growth marketer is to drive growth across the business in any way that you can. While focus area is definitely important and is definitely a defining trait of growth marketing as a function, even more importantly, I think, is the second characteristic, which is that the process of growth is driven by experimentation. And that is the main difference between brand marketing and growth marketing. The way that you drive growth across all areas of the funnel is to constantly experiment with different programs, campaigns, product features, et cetera, that increase conversion, create better customer experiences, generate data that you can then use to learn and improve, so that you can continually optimize your funnel, grow the business, regardless of what your focus is. If you look at the lean startup methodology, is probably one of the founding philosophies of the current approach in Silicon Valley and how growth marketing works now is you have to start by admitting that you don't actually know what your customers want. And when you think you know what they want, if you invest really heavily in building the product for a customer based on a hypothesis that's wrong, you end up investing lots of time, money, and resources in something that generates no results and isn't actually what somebody wants. And so the lean startup methodology is all about defining a hypothesis up front about what a customer wants, finding the fastest and most efficient way to test that hypothesis, design an experiment that can validate or invalidate your hypothesis. It's fine if you're wrong, because at least you're learning and you're not investing heavily in something that's not useful. And then using those learnings to then move forward and then test the next hypothesis and the next hypothesis. And so the same approach can be applied to growth. It's if you as a brand marketer want to increase awareness of your brand, rather than saying, I know exactly what our customers want and what's going to lead to 10,000 more passenger or customer acquisitions, you start with a hypothesis that our customers care about X, so we are going to run an experiment to see if this is actually something that they care about, whether it's a messaging campaign, a video, and see if they actually care about this thing that you are putting out there. If you set it up as an experiment, you can actually learn what is the response and what is the behavior that the customers respond with. And either you're right, and then you can double down on that, and you've learned that this is something they care about, or you're wrong, and you go back to the drawing board. But at least you have those learnings that you can then use to inform future campaigns and future experiments. We're all starting at the same point, which is we're at this current state in the business, and our long-term goal is to get to here, whatever that metric could be. It could be 2x your revenue, 3x your user base, whatever it is. And there are two potential paths to getting there. The traditional, more brand marketing path would be come up with the best single campaign that's going to take you from here to there in one fell swoop. And if you're right, that's great. You've won. You're a genius. You get a promotion and a raise. But if you're wrong, you don't get a second chance because you've spent all of this time and resources. You put all of your chips on the table with this one campaign. The reality is most of the time we aren't right, or we aren't as right as we think we are. And so rather than investing everything in this one idea without actually getting learnings about whether or not it's the best investment, run lots of individual campaigns or experiments as quickly as possible in between now and whenever your deadline is for that goal you want to hit. And each time you learn something more about what your customers want, what they don't want, that allows you to improve the next campaign and the next experiment. And even if most of them are wrong, if you just get 4 right out of a series of 10 experiments over the course of a quarter, and each one of those winning experiments gets you 2-3 percentage points, those things add up. And not only do you most likely get to your goal more often than someone who just runs one big campaign and hopes that it works, but you've also developed a foundation of learnings that you can use the next quarter and the next quarter. And all of those learnings compile into a better understanding of your customers, a better understanding of how channels work, what people like about your brand and your messaging. And growth is always, whether it's in the context of marketing or as an individual, it's about constantly learning and getting better. And so running experiments to generate data, learn something about your customers, and then constantly improve is how you grow as a business, as an individual, and it's how you constantly improve your process and get you to your goals faster.